There is this popular belief that Vedanta focuses on Nirguna Brahman. There is no need for Ishvara or Saguna Brahman. This is a myth. To really understand whether we need a God or not, you have to look at what Vedanta is supposed to do. Vedanta is a pramana, a means of knowledge to know the truth. Mokshaya Atma Jnana. Jnanam evatu kaivalyam. For the sake of moksha, you need knowledge. In fact, knowledge itself is moksha. Therefore, the primary function of Vedanta is self-knowledge. This knowledge has to take place in a mind. That is why all the descriptions of an adhikari, one who is fit for understanding and owning of Vedanta, is mentioned. Viveka, Vairagya, Shatsampatti, Mokshatvam, all those qualities would not be mentioned if your mind was not important. In short, a mature mind. That comes from your growth orientation. This is the secondary role that Vedanta does. One needs to grow out of living a life, and one needs to know the truth. When you are looking at growth, it will be interesting to see in a nutshell some of the growth paradigms available. The most scientific available would be your psychological paradigms. Whether it is cognitive, behavioral, there are cognitive paradigms, there are behavioral paradigms, therapy-based paradigms, Jungian schools, all of them deal with the issues you may have in life. They are very valid, very useful. Most of them function on taking care, making sense of some of the difficult experiences you have gone through in life. I could even say some of the traumatic experiences. But I don't want to limit it only to traumatic experiences. Therefore, I am saying the difficult experiences you have gone through in life. So that you can be a healthy, functioning individual. The so-called normal individual. So-called because I don't know what is normal sometimes.
Simple.
Valid as it is, you still have to deal with a lot of insecurities in spite of the psychological paradigms. Insecurities will still be there. It is a good paradigm for growth, but it is still found wanting as far as life is concerned. The other paradigms available are mind-body work. This will include from dance workshops to body movement workshops, martial arts, yoga, tai chi. All these will come predominantly under mind-body work. Most of them good to deal with your emotions, predominantly as catharsis, and harmonizing certain functions. through harmonizing energy patterns in your body, in your system. Good paradigm. Still wanting. Then there are certain other New Age meditation based programs. They are good for the habitually disturbed mind. They may not deal with inner trauma or inner issues. They may throw it to the surface, but you still have to deal with them. Therefore, you find that all these systems, and I have examined many of them, if not most of them, good as they are still found wanting. Now, if you are looking at the religious paradigms that come in, whether they are Occidental or Oriental, as long as God is taken as a super guy somewhere, they're still wanting. They're still wanting in the sense that God comes along with the so-called religious orthodoxy that is there, the do's and don'ts that are there. Therefore, if you look at it from a psychologist standpoint of view and say, better not have it, it's too much of guilt. The concept of sin is so strong, it overrides the concept of punya or merit. It overrides it. That's why in the West they're happy if you don't have too much of religious influence. The psychologists say it's easier to deal with you than. Even locally here, I remember for a group of therapists came to me to get some insights in how to handle religious conditions. So all these systems are found wanting. It is here that God comes into the picture. The God that is presented in Vedanta or spirituality as, to put it technically, Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana. It is Abhinnam, non-different from you. It is both the material and the efficient cause. In other words, it is the material for the whole universe as well as the intelligence behind the universe. When you understand Ishvara in this manner, you find that even though you may not understand the exact details of how this event in my life makes sense, at least the big picture you gain. There must be some sense. You understand the karma paradigms. One thing I forgot to mention also, the Far East paradigms of being calm, centered, peaceful, forget everything else. As the joke goes, this young man is asking the teacher, when we face the enemy, what happens if I get scared? What happens if I get worried? What happens if I... So the teacher looks at him and says, don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. Now, if you are going by those paradigms, you will be very centered. But there is a tendency not to be emotionally responsive. So when someone comes and says, I love you, you're so sweet. Okay, thank you. There's no emotional response in this. When you understand Ishvara as the order, the whole order is Ishvara. Ishvara is the material and the creation, both. Then that Ishvara is life. Ishvara is life means what? When you're dealing with your wife, whom are you dealing with? Your wife plus what? Ishvara. Problem ho gaya hai. No, vice versa is also true. When you're dealing with your husband, same thing. I started with wife first, okay? All the ladies better know. When you're dealing with your child, it's the same. Child and Ishvara. Dealing with your friend, same thing. Dealing with your boss, same thing. With your junior, same thing. With your enemy, same thing. You may chop off his head, but it is the same thing. There is no sacred, secular divide. If there is anyone from the Congress here, they may think I am being fanatical. They are welcome. There is no sacred, secular divide. Everything is sacred. Everything is sacred. What is not sacred? Now, this understanding creates a naturally prayerful attitude in life. Now, what does that prayerful attitude deal with? What we talk about as Karma Yoga, my Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi is very spontaneous and natural. I don't have to make even an effort. The more I understand Ishvara, the better Karma Yogi I am. With this understanding of Ishvara, I may supplement that for my growth with a psychological paradigm, with a body-mind movement paradigm, with theatre, martial arts, yoga, vipassana, religion. What I need to do with respect to my mind, I can pick up any of these paradigms. All of them are enhanced because of my understanding of Ishvara, because all of them are part of Ishvara's order. Psychology is not different from Ishvara's order. A religious belief is not different from his order. A body-mind movement, an energy work is not different from the order of Ishvara. It is nothing but Ishvara's manifestation. By itself, each become limited. When you bring in the understanding of Ishvara, they are enhanced, become much more effective. Therefore, for your growth, you better have Ishvara in your life. Have Ishvara in your life? Yeah, you can't avoid it. You better acknowledge it. He's already always there. Ishvara is always there in your life. Whether you know it or not, you like it or not. I'm secular, I don't want this Ishvara. Sorry, boss. You can say that only because Ishvara is there. Gandhiji recognized it. That is why he said secularism in India is Sarva Dharma Samabhava. Treating all religions as valid. That secularism will work. Therefore, this understanding of Ishvara, everything is in its order. Tell me what is outside Ishvara. When time and space itself is in Ishvara, what can be outside Ishvara? Therefore, every paradigm of growth that has come up to now and may be discovered in the future will be part of Ishvara's order. Because already there, waiting for you to discover. Let us say we discover a new paradigm. What's a new paradigm now? Sochna padega. Because I never thought of talking about a new paradigm. How does golf contribute to human growth? You can. How does tennis do it? Zen and the art of gymming. By only motorcycle maintenance. You can bring any new paradigm and you'll find a lot of it has been already done before. Why? Because human growth is human growth. No. How can that be different? Growth was valid. If growth is valid now, it was equally valid at the time of the Mahabharata. It was valid when Jesus walked the earth. It was valid in the time of Ramayana. It was valid in the time of the Rishis. Growth is always valid because that's what human beings are meant here anyway. Therefore, really speaking, there's nothing like a new paradigm. It's already there. Been there, done that. And every paradigm that you use is enhanced with the understanding of Ishvara. Because the paradigms can make you normal, healthy individual. This healthy individual has to grow now spiritually. Like, I have done this workshop with many of you. The 6 pillars of self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden's work, phenomenal work. One of the best books available for self-esteem. And when I do this, I enhance it by saying, I am adding the 7th pillar. What is the 7th pillar? An altar of surrender. Otherwise, in the name of self-esteem, you can go a bit haywire. That is Ishvara coming into the whole picture. The whole thing gets enhanced. Therefore, if, as a student of Vedanta, you want to grow, better get Ishvara in your life. You need him, or her for that matter, okay? You need that Ishvara. Get them in. Acknowledge the need for Ishvara in your life for growth. Alright. Somebody, that's fine. But we are spiritual students. I want pure Vedanta. That idiot has been sitting and listening to me for pure Vedanta for the last 10 years. And if 10 years is not going to understand Vedanta, another 10 years he won't understand unless he has taken care of his growth. He won't understand. If he has not taken care of his growth, he won't understand. He will get insights. You cannot sit in a traditional class of Vedanta and not get insights into Vedanta. You will. That is the strength of the traditional teaching. The parampara of teaching takes care of that. The sampradaya of teaching takes care of that. You will get insights. You can't make it a part of your life unless you have the sufficient growth. And one mistake many students of Vedanta make is not taking up growth, not taking up the psychological needs that are there. Therefore, if you take in the psychological paradigm and Ishvara into it, it's great. It works very well. Alright. Now let us come to the moksha part. Now that's what I want. I'm a spiritual student, I want that. Here also you need Ishvara. Why? What is it that you have to understand? Something simple. Tattvamasi, I am Brahmasmi. That's what I want to understand. Correct. Remember, in all the growth paradigms also, you are dealing with yourself as a finite being. This finite person wants to get rid of finitude, therefore comes to Vedanta. Therefore, to get rid of finitude, I have to understand I am this infinite being. What is that infinite being? Remember, presenting your awareness is not enough. Many non-traditional teachers do this. I'm not mentioning names, I know a lot of them. Some personally, some I've heard of them, I've listened to them. Thanks to modern technology. If you're presenting only awareness part, that's only half the job. I'm awareness, you are awareness. Therefore, we are similar. That doesn't remove my finitude. You're awareness, I am awareness. Therefore, both of us are awarefully suffering. Our isolation and loneliness. Yeah, very awarefully we are suffering isolation and loneliness. I'm very awareful of my problems, so both gadbad ho jate hain. Some years better off before, when I was so aware. So now what do you have a chance to do? Don't be aware. Shut it down. Don't look into those things. It doesn't work. That's when Ishvara comes into your life. Anyway, this finite being now has to discover oneself as infinite. And one of the biggest problems that stand against it is the world that you see. I am awareness is easy to come to. But this awareness is everything. How everything? What about the world? Definitely not that thing. That character I don't want anything to do with. Here is where the methodology of Vedanta comes in. I need to see very clearly that this whole universe, or the multiverse if you want to call it, has a single source. That it is a single source is revealed knowledge. Why? Logically you cannot come to the single source. How can you say that the whole universe is from one God? How do you say that? If you are being logical, logic है ना? घटस्य कर्ता घटज्ञः, पटस्य कर्ता पटज्ञः. One who makes a pot knows a pot. So similarly, one who has made everything knows everything. So how do you know he has made everything? Tell me that. How do you know he has made everything? Yeah. You don't know. Unless Vedanta or a book like Vedanta tells you, you don't know. Logically, can you not infer? Logically, you cannot infer. Do you think this building is made by one person? You have an architect, you have a designer, you have contractors, you have laborers, you have engineers, you have... So many people are involved in making one building. Then this whole universe? तो एक आदमी का काम नहीं हो सकता. That's why if you only going by logic, you will get the Roman pantheon of gods. Everybody has their jobs. One character to bring in rain, one character for fire, one character for this, one character for that. Logically, that's what it is logical. Correct? The pantheon is logical. That there is one has to be a revealed knowledge. It is not logical knowledge. Not only that, remember, you are saying that the material and God is not separate. You can invoke him as sitting down somewhere, that's okay. But the material and him is not separate. That is what you are saying. God himself has manifested as the whole universe. There is no creation now. It is Ishvara that is manifested as the creation. So what difference does it make? huge difference. Why? Because now you get this whole universe that you have to deal with, that you see, that is standing against your understanding of Vedanta as being one. One unitary whole called Ishvara, or any other name you want to use. It doesn't matter to me. I use the term Ishvara. One source for the whole thing. And right now also he is non-different from the whole. When you see the cause and effect as non-different, you get a new understanding. Like my kurta. The cloth and the kurta. The kurta is nothing but a manifestation of this cloth. The kurta has no existence separate from the cloth. Similarly, the universe is nothing but a manifestation of Ishvara. The universe has no existence apart from Ishvara. Now, in this example of kurta and cloth, what is the relationship between cloth and kurta? A cause effect? How much is it cause effect? Tell me. Is it cause effect like mother and child? There's a mother, there's a child, cause effect. There is no two here. The kurta and the cloth is one and the same. If anyone has a doubt, for Guru Purnima, do one thing for me. By the time I come back from Coimbatore, please make me a kurta without any material. Doubt रहेगा तो ऐसा करेंगे. Experiential learning, this is called. Make a kurta for me without any material. It is a material itself that is manifesting as the effect. That means cause itself is manifesting as the effect. That means the same entity from one standpoint is effect, from the other standpoint is cause. That means all cause-effect relationship in the world is mithya or apparent. Here it is easy to recognize. In some places it is more difficult to recognize. There may be a difficulty in recognizing, because to recognize the oneness, you may have to go to the cellular level or to the particle level, the molecular level. That's okay. Vacharam manam vikaro namadeyam mritikeva satyam. The whole creation, nothing but a form for which you have a word. That's all there is there. When the whole universe is seen like that, the cause first, look at it, the first you put a cause-effect relationship. Then you are seeing the cause-effect relationship as mithya, as not real, as apparent. Now tell me, if the cause-effect relationship is mithya, what is there? What is there is nothing but the cause. Therefore, that Ishvara that was presented, now the same Ishvara is recognized as what? Existence, awareness, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. The same Ishvara is recognized as not different from me. That means what? Limitless awareness, not limited awareness anymore. I awareness is not enough, it's only part of the job. That this awareness now is the basis of the whole existence awareness is the whole essence. And that existence awareness is limitless, Ananta. It is only this unfolding of Vedanta that works. You can do it in different paradigms. Every Upanishad is a paradigm. But Ishvara is brought in everywhere. If you think, if anyone here thinks that Ishvara is not necessary for unfoldment of Vedanta, you have not got Vedanta. Ishvara becomes vital in the whole thing. Vital in in the unfolding. Because how do you get the totality without Ishvara? And the totality is Ishvara. Otherwise, you end up with only an understanding of me awareness, but not that awareness is limitlessness. You won't get that understanding. And as I said before, if you are going away with the understanding I am awareness, it is exactly like saying I have a soul. Soul is okay, awareness is okay. Then who has a problem? I have. You went to this teacher and he talked to your awareness and you understood your awareness. What change has it made in your life? You still find it. I still have my problems. Emotional, physical, everything is there. I have not got rid of my sense of finitude. Unless I understand I am everything. The difficulty in understanding this comes because the person who has understood I am everything also functions like you and me. Yeah. The person who has understood everything, therefore now a Sthita Prajna, a wise person, gets up in the morning. You think he jumps out of bed and says, Anandoham, Anandoham. It goes about jumping around. He's not a monkey doing that. I don't know whether the monkeys do that. He's also going to stretch and say, it's raining outside. Snooze button. Let me get another 10 minutes. I will wake up moment and say, it's okay if you're 10 minutes late. As I did today morning. It's okay. He's also going to function like you and me, the same. Yeah, he's also going to stretch and say, chai peene ka pehla haath pav nahi chakta. Let me have a cup of tea first. He's also going to say the same thing. Because when you're living in the world, you're going to live. You're going to function as a finite human being because that's your functioning self. Remember this. I'm taking certain things for granted because all of you come to my classes, okay? Therefore, in your functioning life, you are going to function as a finite being. Otherwise, it's a problem. After realization, I am everything, the basis for the whole creation. Now I can't shake. Because if I shake, the whole universe will shake. Thank God it is not like that. You can go for a dance class and shake a lot there, no problems. Shake and shimmy and everything you can, no problems. There will be no issues on it. Because functioning, the moment you say karma, functioning, you are functioning as a finite human being. Therefore, Ishvara's order will work. If you care for somebody, and that somebody is in pain, you will pick it up because you have empathy. Of course you will pick it up. But that pain won't limit you, that's only a difference. How can that be possible? That's possible. That's the beauty of, that's called moksha. When you can say that I can feel for somebody, I feel that person's pain, but I am not in pain because of that. And you feel pain but you are not in pain, correct? You feel pain but you are not in pain. That understanding frees you. Therefore, in all your functioning life, the wise person also will feel heat and cold. He will feel. Even though it is said, Sthitoshna Samadukeshu, it's all Samaha. He is the same in everything. He is the same because he is awareness, he is the same. He is that all-pervading awareness, therefore you are the same. Otherwise, if you discover your all-pervading awareness, problem ho jayega. But right now it's freezing in the Arctic, okay? Sorry, in the Antarctic it is freezing. Equator is hot. Not a wonder I am feeling comfortable because mean is correct. Average take. That's not how it works. Functionally, you will function as a finite human being. The wise person also functions as a finite human being. Therefore, you don't see a difference. The difference is in what you know, what you identify with, therefore what you feel. You are free in spite of the feeling. It is not that you won't feel people's sorrow or pain or joy. That means you become heartless after Vedanta, if that is true. And there is a whole line of teachers, housewives turned teachers, who teach like that. Alright? After coming for Vedanta, what are you talking about children and things like that? Why Vedantin cannot talk about children? There's a whole group. Remember, I've been in this place for years, so I've seen everything. The whole group of teachers who teach idiotically like that. I don't know who made them teachers. You teach. That's not true. A wise person has all the emotions. In fact, the person should be more emotionally responsive. Why? Because an emotion is not a problem. For sometimes when I am struggling with an emotion, that emotion is a problem for me. For anyone it can be a problem. For a wise person that's not a problem. Therefore you can have the whole gamut of emotions. It's not an issue. Why? Because you have the emotion and you're free from it. At the same time. That's the only way to live. It's a beautiful way to live. You have the emotion and you're free. You can love somebody and set that person free, set yourself also free. Hey, that's great. You can dislike somebody and set the person free. And set yourself also free from the dislike. In fact, you are free when you are having it. You can be a healer and heal somebody, and the same hand that can heal can also kill, and you are free from both. There was a great teacher like that. He was called Mahatman Jawali. With a word, he could kill. One word was enough. One word. Okay? A word uttered was enough to kill. And the same word, and a word from him was enough to bring the dead back to life. Therefore, he had to be very careful when he used his words. Big responsibility. If he says, go die, the guy is dead. If he means it, the guy will fall dead. Then I have to say, please, get up. I'm sure Mahatma Jawali didn't have that problem, okay? He was a awareful person, therefore he will use his words very awarefully, very naturally. But this freedom is what you have inside. This is the ultimate growth. This is symbolized by that story of Ananda, who goes to Buddha. In fact, Buddha says, okay, the flowers have showered for Ananda. That's a Buddhistic expression to show that Ananda is now a wise person. So the other students are enthralled. Because one of us have gained wisdom, that is something. So they all go to Ananda and says, Ananda, now that you are a wise person, how do you find the world? He looks around. All these characters standing around. Neither as miserable as ever. And he laughs. And you can look at it and say, hey, what a pain that is. And laugh at the whole thing. What a pain that character is in my life. It's a pain in the neck. And still be free. Still be free. That is what Vedanta does. Still be free. I can develop this further in certain areas. It's a good place to stop. If you have any questions, shoot. Because I'm not really used to all my students sitting so quietly and listening. And neither are my students used to that, I think. Yeah, Sheila, tell me.
You talked about the Buddha and the cloth as cause and effect.
What more?
You talked about the Buddha and the cloth as cause and effect.
Yeah.
And then you said, you also mentioned mother and child. So
Yeah.
Would that also be cause and effect?
Yeah, for mother and child, you have to go to the cellular level, to the the genetic level to see the oneness. That's why the level changes, that's all. It's the same thing. Huh? The DNA level, etc., you have to go to see cause-effect relationship there. That's all.
But they both have their own individualities, which a cloth
Correct.
and kurta won't have.
So,
How can you-
agree. That's why cloth and kurta becomes the example. Easier to understand. Correct. So individuality comes in, then the mind will have to come in. Then the cosmic, that's why the cosmic mind has to be brought in. Ishvara has to be brought in to see the oneness. Because at this level you can't see the oneness. You have to bring in Ishvara to see the oneness. Can you see that? The Ishvara will have to be brought in to see the oneness there.
Take magnified glass.
Magnifying glass, I think. That's what I'm
Very powerful.
So you bring in Ishvara to bring in that oneness. Then everything comes in. No?